your mother. It's time for another episode of Birds with Friends. Just a trio of feathery brethren weathering any season to see the Eagles eating teams like Scrammy's top with cheese. It's Philadelphia. Bo, Sheil, and Zach kicking it cooler than 3 penguins till Zach runs off with his valet keys. He's a real nuanced goose. Pull up a branch, get loose. It's time for some juice on some
Birds with Friends.
The early bird gets the worm, but prefers getting turned like a turn on some
Birds with Friends.
Bo, Sheil, and Zach coming at you with stats and things flapping their wings.
Statistics, they can be like bathing suits. What they, what.
Finish it up. Sometimes you gotta take them off.
What the hell?
What they show is revealing, but what they conceal is vital, right? So.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Birds with Friends on a Thursday afternoon. Bo Wolf, Zach Berman, Sheil Kapadia here, and we have a monster show today. I have it's about 2:00. I have pickup with the kids at 5, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to get out in time within 3 hours for this episode. We have the 64-person bracket of Quacketology in order to decide which player is or who is most likely to sign with the Eagles in free agency. But we also have an enormous amount, or at least in terms of implications, of news to get to, NFL landscape shifting stuff. If you go to the Birds with Friends TeePublic site, if you want to get your Birds with Friends merch, you go there. The header is an image all the way back from Kapadia Week in 2017. Russell Wilson and Carson Wentz shaking hands midfield. Who would have known that 5 years later, they'd both be heading in opposite directions? And so I know that everybody's expecting me to give this some irreverent start, but I think we get right into the news. I think we send it over to the Stone Cold Newsman for the latest in the NFL and the NFC East. Big news. Zach Berman, give us the latest on Jerry Jones. On Jerry Jones' love child.
I feel bad doing the news during what I would call Sheil Week now that Sheil's a national reporter, because this Sheil is all over free agency. I really enjoyed his piece today on the free agency fits for every team. But before free agency commences, I was about to put it in past tense. There were a few major trades in the NFL. The most notable being Russell Wilson goes to Denver for a bounty of picks and players. There were 4 draft picks and 3 players who were dealt. Earlier that day, Aaron Rodgers decides to stay in Green Bay, renegotiates, or I guess gets a new deal. And then yesterday, Carson Wentz, our old friend Carson Wentz, heads to Washington, where he will be the new Commanders quarterback. And there were, I guess, 2 draft picks traded and a few picks exchanged as well. So those are that's the most notable news. Also of note since we last spoke, Calvin Ridley, who I know was on the radar of some Eagles fans. Calvin Ridley suspended.
And some Eagles podcasters, I would say.
What's told me to F you, so.
Calvin Ridley suspended.
What goes around comes around, my man.
For the 2022 season for gambling during I guess the report is he played an 8-game parlay, that's tough to hit right there. But Calvin Ridley is suspended for next season. So that's the major news. I'm sure we will discuss it all, and look forward to an action-packed full podcast here.
Thank you, Mr. Berman. Sheil, how you doing? You look, commenters saying you look a little disinterested.
Well, I'm on the Bo Wolf, Zach Berman sleep schedule today. I was up till 3. This is not a complaint, just laying, you asked the question.
Yeah.
I was up till 3 working on this piece. And then we had a little Harry Potter exhibit at the Franklin Institute this morning. Kids have off from school today. It's a teacher in service day. So we had this plan. So I had to get up and go to that. Couldn't skip that and sleep in or anything. So I'm not used to this. I mean, I'm probably I would say between 4 and 5 hours of sleep, which I'm sure some of our listeners are like, what are you talking about? That's what we do every day. That's not what Sheil does every day. I am a 7-hour a night guy. That's what I need. Otherwise I'm getting headaches. I don't feel right, but it's okay. We'll power through it. I got some coffee here. And so
now you're going more coffee than usual.
I was thinking about this for your like Starbucks piece you wrote. That was like sociopathic behavior. I mean, you had like 3 monster coffees before like, what was it? 10, 11 a.m.
Very tired.
Stays in your system for like 6 hours, I believe. I mean, you're going to like kill yourself doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely not feeling normal at the end of it.
No sense. You don't just keep pumping it in. You pump it in, you let it do its job, you wait till you come down, and then you pump it in again.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's sort of what I did. Just
no, because it wasn't out of your system yet. All right, let's get to it. Come on, I'm not about the your 5-hour pickup. I got other stuff to do here.
We did it. I did make a promise to get us out within 2 hours. That's legitimate. So we'll see what we can do. All right,
need the under on that.
Why don't we start with? I know we want to get to Carson,
he's freezing here.
He froze. All right, we take over. Z-Berm, I don't know. Let me set the scene for me. Where were you when you heard the Carson Wentz news? And what was your initial reaction then? And what is your reaction now?
So actually, this is interesting that you ask. I was on a video call with Bo and 2 of our editors. Okay.
Whoa! Wow, interesting. Okay,
yeah,
I want more on that, but we'll get to that in the next.
There's a story that we're working on that Bo's doing an outstanding job with, and we were kind of updating our editors on that story. And I had this, I got an alert on my phone that Carson Wentz is being traded. So I hated to bump into the conversation, but I said, "Hey, wait, guys! Just want to let you know, Carson Wentz to the Washington Commanders." And Bo was eager to hear that one.
The Stone Cold Newsman. He broke the news to me.
So that's exactly where I was, and then I consumed coverage. I exchanged messages with our esteemed Washington writer Ben Standig. I
poor guy.
I don't know about that. I mean, there's probably interest in this, right? I mean, people are.
I think it has no juice. No?
I
mean,
okay.
I think their fan base is probably disgusted, bored, apathetic. They have an owner who's in just the middle. There was a DEA raid, right? That's like their 9th biggest story of the offseason. I mean, sexual misconduct allegations. And now, their coach goes out there and tells the entire world that they're desperate for a quarterback, which is fine. I mean, if you don't have a quarterback, you should be desperate for one. You should be making every call. But the way it went down, and then to land on Carson Wentz of all people and think that that's going to be the solution, and to take on his whole salary of $28 million for this year, and then to give up a third, and a third that turns into a second. And I was laughing yesterday thinking about Chris Ballard when he's like, I would love to have heard the recording when he's like, oh, and also we want to move up 5 spots in the second round. Like, these heat checks for these GMs are hilarious, where they're just like, well, I might as well ask for one more thing. What are they going to do? Say no to that. So they're just stuck in the middle. They've been stuck in the middle, or worse, since Dan Snyder owned the team. Just a complete disaster. One of the worst organizations in all of professional sports, unless you're looking at the bottom line of what he's pocketing every year, in which case they're very successful. And so while he's on his yacht or wherever he is, life is good. For the fan base there, life is bad.
That's like negotiating with John Gonzalez. That's like negotiating with John Gonzalez in fantasy basketball.
Wow, Gonzo takes a stray.
Wow. No, it's a compliment.
We're in Pencrest High School country here, the school that Gonzo built and that the Capadias will be attending. So you got to watch what you say.
No, it's a compliment, right? Like you'll have these negotiations.
We don't know. You tell us. We've never negotiated a basketball trade with him.
I've never negotiated with Gonzo. John, no.
John is he is thorough. It's comprehensive. It's the type of thing where you're exhausted by the end of the negotiation, and you're just like, fine, we'll exchange 7th and 9th round picks, and I'll give you cap space this year. Let's just get the deal finished with.
Now, I hope this is not. I hope I can say this. You said during Combine week, Gonzo was very active because Colleen was in Indianapolis for the Combine, so he had all his time to make his moves. Is that fair?
It was deadline week in his defense.
Oh, okay.
So we were So that's when we were getting it all finished. Yes.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, the Carson Wentz thing is the funniest possible outcome here. I mean, it's amazing. He's going to be either he's going to be playing. Well, I mean, I would say playing the Eagles twice a year, but I think we
for 1 year maybe
he's gonna. Well, he's not going to play both games. I mean, he's probably going to get injured. He played 70% of the snaps last year. He's not going to do it again. But you do have to say, like, it is a pretty good scheme fit for Wentz because this is the locker room that wouldn't get vaccinated for their coach who had cancer. So for him to go there, I feel like it's a good fit.
I mean, Zach Kiefer had so many, good nuggets in his story, and really, I mean, they've been he and Stephen Holder have been all over this. The day the season ended, I mean, if you read their coverage the week after the season ended, I went from going, no, they're not going to let one game, they're going to ride this out for another year, to like 3 days later being like, okay, he is definitely gone. And yeah, one of the things was that Wentz's decision to not get vaccinated did not sit well with Jim Irsay, whether that was just because Jim Irsay thought everybody should be vaccinated, or whether he thought, I'm paying you a lot of money, we've invested a lot of resources into this trade, and you're risking your availability for the team, and that's poor leadership. We saw football guys, put players in that spot. That was part of it. It wasn't like the greater good of helping mankind. It was as much as you got to be there for your team. You got to durability, availability is the best ability type thing. So he wasn't happy with that. And then, the nugget that was getting passed around, which I've never heard of anything like this, where when Carson Wentz realized he was on shaky ground after the season and requested a meeting with the owner, Jim Irsay, Irsay declined the meeting. I mean,
but that's because, it was updated. He was out of town, and they met after that.
Okay.
Just don't listen to the story.
I mean,
right?
okay.
You're holding it against me.
Well, what was that? That was a second version or something? I mean, I don't know. That could have been a little damage control.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Don't kill the messenger here, okay?
Yeah, no.
It's also very funny to think about, like, Carson last year talking about, like, how this is really the kind of place that fits our family. Like, being in the Midwest, this is great. And he gets to go to the Beltway, where he can really be a mover and a shaker.
Frank Reich apologizing, as our commenters are saying. That was also in the story.
Right.
Frank Reich apologizing to Jim Irsay. He was clearly the driving force behind that trade last offseason. And really, I'm sure if you talk to anybody when this trade was made, it was like, and as Bo wrote about it in the deep dive on Wentz, like Reich, backed Wentz maybe more than anybody in the league from the moment he scouted him. They drafted him really until he kind of had him there last year. And that's the other thing for Washington. Like, I mean, don't you know that? Haven't you done your homework? Like if Reich, I know Reich might not be the driving force in getting rid of Wentz, but for him to kind of be throwing his hands up after a year, and now you're telling your fans and you're saying your organization can get more out of him than they did last year. I mean, what kind of leap of faith is that for a Washington Commanders? I'm still not used to it. Organization.
I don't think we need to be beholden to Commanders.
Should we just do football team? I just want to watch team.
Just Washington. Just call them.
So
Washington.
I've been honest, I'm not defending the trade at all, right? I'm just asking you, Sheil, as the national reporter here, what were their realistic alternatives, right? Because you're looking at Jimmy Garoppolo, you're looking at, I guess, potentially Deshaun Watson, but I don't know about that in Washington. And so I'm trying to figure out.
I mean,
once they couldn't let it.
How are you not making a comment there? Yeah,
so
I'm not going to get fired, but you could.
So they made according to our Ben standing, they made a big offer for Russell Wilson, 3 first-round picks, right? I believe is the reported offer. Russell Wilson, from what I've heard, he wanted to go to Denver. The Seahawks did not want to trade him to the NFC, so it's kind of moot there. Okay, so then after that,
go finish.
And where they're drafting, you don't know who's unless they make a big move up into the top 10. You don't know who's going to be there. It's not an amazing year for quarterbacks. So of the available options, I'm I mean, Wentz, I don't like the contract. I don't think the compensation is horrible, given if he gives you like competent quarterback play. There's a lot of baggage there.
Paying the entire contract.
Well, yes. The contract part of it I don't like, right? But I'm just saying, like, from an options perspective, the term I hear it on TV all the time, and it's true right now that there's far more demand than there is supply at that position.
Well, I would argue, in my 10 guidelines for not screwing up your offseason, and the line I keep coming back to is that competency at quarterback is easier than ever to find, and it's never mattered less. And so that would be sort of my guiding principle if I were looking for a quarterback. I mean, what were their alternatives? Sign Teddy Bridgewater for, I would anticipate a max of like 10 to 12 million, maybe like $7-8 million. You're not giving up any draft picks. I bet if we look at whatever his statistics are at the end of next season compared to Carson Wentz's, they're going to be pretty similar next season. I mean, that's if Bridgewater gets a starting job. I mean, I think what you have to do, you're right. I mean, it's hard because there's no simple solution to getting a great quarterback right now. We all know it's important. We all know you need to have one of the guys where you're irrelevant. Everybody knows that, but that doesn't get you anywhere. I think right now what you have to do is don't overspend on someone who's not going to be that guy. Don't get desperate. Be patient. Accumulate assets so that when that opportunity is there, you're ready to pounce.
Sure.
Which, it was Russell Wilson this offseason, Matthew Stafford last offseason. Maybe it'll be Kyler Murray next offseason. You always want to be in that mix for when that guy becomes available. And then you have to take swings on draft picks with upside. I mean, it's not an exciting strategy, and it might not work, and your ownership has to be patient. I understand all those things, that sometimes your job security takes precedent, but this is just such a losing proposition. If you're Washington, I mean, you're giving up resources, you're giving up $28 million. The ceiling is low and the floor is low. I mean, I don't understand why you would want to make a move like that. And also in the Colts story, I mean, he wrote that Washington had an offer of a 4th and a 6th on the table, and then Russell Wilson goes to Denver and they bump up to 2/3. I mean, come on, what are you doing here? I don't think there's going to be that crazy of a market to land Carson Wentz, and it's not the end of the world if you don't land Carson Wentz. So why are you getting so aggressive there in what could end up being a 2nd and a 3rd? Plus $28 million for him.
I saw our friend Diana Rossini had a nugget that Washington believed that there was competition in the marketplace for him. So I don't know if that's Pittsburgh. I don't know if that's Pittsburgh was getting into the fray.
Right, but then lose the competition.
Look, I'm just
don't fall in love. The adult the Delilah's Den NFL free agency rule. Don't fall in love.
It's very specific right there.
Yeah.
Carson would never go.
A local place, maybe a potential sponsor. I don't know. I told you I'm on no sleep. Bo, you have to help me to not get fired during this pod, as I generally do to you, because I don't know the words that are coming out of my mouth.
Well, let's pivot a little bit to Russell Wilson, because obviously the two things are connected. And just to quickly say, whether it's true or not, and I sort of think that it's not true. We didn't want to trade him to the NFC is like, who cares? Get the best, do what's best for your franchise. Get the best compensation. I think this is much more about, like, Russell Wilson has a complete no trade clause.
Exactly.
He can determine where he wants.
I think
to go.
that's it.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. It's the NFC thing is like a thing that you share with your GM buddies so that they have an explanation for why they didn't get Russell Wilson.
That's fair.
Right.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah.
He got to choose where he wanted to go.
Exactly. And that's what a no trade clause does is that the player picks. It's not a matter of the value that the other team presents, right? Because, like, if you just take the Eagles could have trumped that offer. I do believe, based on their assets, they could have given more. But I get the distinct impression that Russell Wilson wanted to be in Denver, right? And so in that case, like Bo said, the no trade clause is the trump card that trumps all.
So what is your sense, Zach, of how not involved but aware the Eagles were of the Russell Wilson process?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that that they did their work on it, and they probably found out pretty early on. I don't want to say pretty early on. You and I got the sense at the combine that they didn't think they were going to land him, right? And so I think that that they realized, even if there was legitimate interest, that there's not. I don't know how much legs it had, because I think that he wasn't coming to Philly. So.
Well, I guess my supposition is that Howie would, like, John Schneider knew what Howie would be willing to pay, right? Like, Howie let him know that if Russell changes his mind, we would be interested. My question is, like, do you think it ever got to the level of like back channels trying to convince Russell that this was a good place to come, or do you think they thought that was just a lost cause?
It's a good question. I don't know. I would say I would
Maybe
guess
we can do some more work on that.
Yeah.
That's a great question.
I would guess that Wilson probably had a list, right? Like we found out that list last year, and I would imagine that Wilson had that list, and Denver historically has always been a place where quarterbacks have wanted to play. So now in terms of winning, I know they have a really good roster, and no competitive person is like, I don't want to go there because it's tough to win. But that division, that conference, like, I would think you'd have a better chance being in the NFC, being in the NFC East, right? Like that would be a better opportunity. I would have tried to go to New York, Philly, or Washington, right? I would say send me to one of those three places. I have a better chance.
Don't send me to Washington. That's nobody's choosing to play for Daniel Snyder. Come on.
Yeah, you're right. It's funny, and you hear the lot, and people justify it with just what you said, and I think you're right. Quarterbacks are like, who cares? I'll go there and I'll win. Like, I am not wired like that. I mean, I would be like, oh boy, Patrick Mahomes, stay away. Herbert, no, I don't want to play that guy twice a year. What are you, nuts? Yeah, I'm out of here. Yeah, get me to the division with Daniel Snyder.
The NFC South. Get me to the NFC South now.
Get me to the NFC South anywhere. Yes. I'm with you. I think you're right, though. I think, by all accounts, it was like he just had target, I don't know if he had a list of every team that was interested or not, but Denver was like on another level for him. He liked a lot about the situation there, and that's where he wanted to go, whether that was, people in his camp saying this is a great spot for you for whatever reasons, or whether it was something about, the John Elway and Peyton
Maybe he can
Manning.
Get an ownership stake.
Maybe he can get an ownership stake. I don't know. I mean, I think they have nice pieces. I mean, it might be, I'm curious to see the pieces around him, how they perform next year. Cause we talk about like Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton as if they're, Devontae Adams, which they have not been. I like all those players, honestly, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, and Tim Patrick. I like all three of those players. Javonte Williams, I like, and they haven't had consistent quarterback play. So like, it wouldn't surprise me if if one or two of those guys goes off this year. I know we all, I think, love Jeudy coming out of that draft. It hasn't happened for him yet. Sutton, I think, is a very good player. So, maybe with Wilson there, they'll kind of take off.
So do you think this means, Zach, we talked about this on our little beat back and forth, but you think this means, pen in Jalen Hurts, or is there still a possibility of, Deshaun Watson or a draft pick?
I think the most likely outcome is Jalen Hurts. And look, I would say never on the Watson possibility. And I do want to acknowledge too, I don't know how many crossover readers and listeners we have. I hope many, frankly. But I do read all the comments on our stories, and I do want to address a contention that a few readers had. Like we had that back and forth about Bo and I, and by no means would I want to like belittle or not make like underscore. That's not the right word. Undersell underplay. There you go. The significance of the allegations. Like they're significant. It's this whole conversation is moot. If he's indicted, I presume he's not playing football. When we have the conversation, I don't believe we can ignore it totally. Right?
Our job is to know what the Eagles are interested in and whether or not they are interested in figuring out if Deshaun Watson's going to be available.
I think it would be irresponsible on our part if we were just like, let's not even go there. All right. Because I think the Eagles do their due diligence. All right, so now we've established.
And I think that Howie Roseman has been given like softball opportunities several times to just come out and say, we are not interested in that player. Like he does not like
Chris Greer of the Dolphins did. He said, we're no
Right.
longer in the Deshaun Watson business. I mean, that would be very easy to say if you didn't get the okay from ownership, if you did more research on it and you said, no way, we're not bringing that guy into our building. I mean, that would be a very easy thing to say, either on the record or off the record, that we're not doing that. You guys should stop writing about it. That's not an option for us. To everyone's understanding, that has not been said by anyone in the Eagles organization. So you're right. It's a tricky one. I understand it does feel icky to talk about. There are, 22 women who filed civil lawsuits. There are criminal charges. And so it is difficult to, you kind of have to not separate the two, but you have to talk about it all together. For sure. At the same time, yes, if it's something the Eagles are discussing internally, and if there's a possibility that he is still a quarterback in the league when all is said and done, whatever happens here tomorrow and in the weeks and months ahead, then it is something that we discuss players who have been accused or not even accused, more proven, Tyreek Hill is getting discussed. And so it's just, I think you have to talk about it in the right way. I think, Zach, you've written about it in a sensitive way, and you mention it. You have to mention those allegations every single time, and with the caveat that, yeah, he could be in jail, he could be out of the league. I mean, there are a number of possibilities that come into play here.
If I can, did you have more to say, Zach?
Oh yeah. So just establishing that, I do think that I think this is a case where the no trade clause could also be an issue. Is that if he is playing football next year and presumably he's traded, he's going to have a say of where he wants to go. And I've heard that could be an issue for the Eagles if the Eagles were in fact interested. So like we've discussed, there are a number of teams out there that are still looking for quarterbacks. I think Carolina could be in that market. I think Seattle could be in that market.
Yes.
So I don't know how high up on that list the Eagles would be, even if they did have a So
what do you make of the Eagles if that's the case, like not being considered by these premier quarterbacks for their no trade clause, like as a franchise? Do you think that that's like a hit to their ego?
Yeah, I mean, so far it's only one. Right. And
but we had heard that about Deshaun Watson last summer, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fair, and I don't know really what you attribute it to. I mean, I think Sirianni has been better than anyone probably thought he was going to be so far, and so maybe if it's a year from now, they're a more attractive spot. Certainly, they have a good offensive line. I don't think you would look at their skill position players and say, yeah, it's a great place to be. Sometimes it's just a matter of where you want to live, what's the rest of your family's doing, all those things. So I think there are a lot of things that come into play, but yeah, I mean, it's certainly not a situation where quarterbacks are saying, oh, please get me there. They're only a quarterback away and I can go there, live there, win multiple Super Bowls. And that's at the top of my list. I think we can say that, again, small sample, but that has been the case so far. So yeah, I would think that would be a blow to their ego. Speaking
of the comments section, it's always fun to like discover a new type of person that you didn't know existed. And I was reading Sheil's.
I would disagree with that, by the way.
I was reading Sheil's very exhaustive and very good piece for the Sickos today, projecting 3 free agent signings to every team. And it would have never occurred to me in my entire life that there would be Lions fans who are like gung-ho Jared Goff backers, like angry at Sheil for projecting them to sign Teddy Bridgewater because they already have a quarterback in Jared Goff.
Yeah, you texted me that, and I was on no sleep walking around the Franklin Institute, and I said, "There's no chance I'm even looking at those comments." But thanks for the heads up there. One thing I wanted to say about the Wentz thing is that, Bo, I remember in your piece you had written about how, I don't know if it was Howie or somebody else, was sort of like, we felt like Wentz had kind of the fabric to play in Philadelphia, right? Wasn't that like a big thing?
How wrong was that?
Well, I had 2 thoughts on that. One is the point that I keep making here is that these teams shouldn't even try to like evaluate that kind of stuff. I mean, I guess you can try, but it's just going to be, you know, the psychological stuff. It just feels like they think that they're capable of evaluating a player's makeup and stuff like that. I mean, you should just kind of like interview the people around them, see what they say, teammates, coaches, and like take that and even take that with a grain of salt, because it's just totally different. Because yeah, I mean, look at it now. I mean, now you couldn't like come up with an athlete who it feels like would, you know, in the long term would have been a worse fit for Philadelphia. And the other thing I was thinking about,
Ben Simmons.
Yeah, the other thing I was thinking about was the appreciation for Donovan McNabb really should kind of continue to grow fonder.
That's a good point.
As the years go on here. I mean, you know, he had his quirks. He was sensitive about some stuff, but man, and I said this at the time with Wentz when, I don't know if it was 18, 19 on this podcast, just like the criticism he got for accomplishing so much more than Wentz had and sort of battling through it really should probably be appreciated a lot more because, you know, he just, I just feel like it was a totally different degree, a different level than Wentz ever had to deal with. I mean, Wentz's GM is saying in Indianapolis that he's having trouble dealing with the, you know, that was like basically his quote at the combine was the quarterback has to be able to deal with criticism. And like Wentz wasn't getting crushed in Indianapolis, you know, like McNabb was getting crushed in Philadelphia. So I don't know. Just as the Eagles continue to be on this sort of, what was it, hamster wheel of quarterback. I don't know. Does that work? I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, as they continue to be on this, because the Wilson thing, we probably didn't. I mean, we talked around it a little bit, but let's be clear. It feels like the Eagles, this was a matter of Wilson not being interested in the Eagles, not the Eagles not being interested in Wilson.
Right.
You know, they were not saying, no, that's not something we don't want to explore.
We've got Jalen Hurts. We're not interested. That was not
right.
the case.
So they're still, you know, they got Hurts, but their eyes are still wide open.
Yeah. Quarterback curious. And the Wentz piece, you know, the story of how they went up to get him. I always think back to like the most honest thing that Howie said was that he just decided he was going to go get a quarterback, and it didn't matter to him. Like when he decided that who it was going to be, like he just wanted to get a quarterback. And so sometimes like, it's like what Washington did. Like sometimes these teams just decide like, okay, whether it's the right answer or not, I'm just going to go get a guy.
You know what? That's so much more justifiable though in the draft, in my opinion, where there's already so much uncertainty. And you just, I mean, if you can see the upside, I actually don't have an issue with just taking a swing on upside at quarterback in the draft. I mean, it's kind of like the Bills. I mean, the Bills process wasn't that different. Their guy just came through. I mean, no one really, you know, you could argue, shoot, what are they doing taking Josh Allen after 2 years? They're getting crushed for it. It ended up working out. You kind of just have to take a swing. You do your homework. If you see the upside, and then you hope for the best, because as Zach was alluding to earlier, like, yeah, anybody, if you could get handed Patrick Mahomes, every team would want to do that. If you get handed Justin Herbert, every team would want to do that. Every team would give up all kinds of draft capital to do that. Those opportunities are not available.
Now, the last two teams that have won the Super Bowl have gone the veteran quarterback route. They've said, all right, we're going to go with the established option. We'll pay the money, we'll pay the picks, but it's like the, you know, we want a guy that we know as opposed to the unknown that comes with the draft. So I don't know if this is a trend that more teams are looking at, or if it's just a matter that there's more movement than there's been in the past. We talk about it with, you know, the player empowerment era. If that's like a big phrase, but it is true that, like, you know, last year Carson Wentz has said, like, I don't want to play in Philadelphia. Russell Wilson, and we had a great story from our Seattle reporters. Russell, it was a divorce. He was ready to move on. Aaron Rodgers, the only reason Aaron Rodgers would have been moved would be like if he said, I don't want to play in Green Bay anymore. Tom Brady didn't want to play in New England anymore. Matthew Stafford asked for a trade. So we're also in an era where if you can position yourself to have an appealing situation, whether it's roster, whether it's market, then quarterbacks are going to be moved. The idea that a guy's going to be with his franchise for his whole career and that the team has all the power, I think that's becoming somewhat antiquated as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. And it's just like, you know, it goes back to the Wentz thing. Like, what were their other options? I mean, with that $28 million in those picks, I mean, if you're building up your roster, like build it up and be ready to pounce, whether it's good. Because the thing is, you know, even with the Bills, like, That's what they did. They were like, we're going to build up the offensive line. We're going to take a swing on Stephon Diggs. We're going to put him in a position where we're going to know at some point whether he's the guy or not. And so, like, if Josh Allen didn't develop and wasn't good after year 3, that might have been a nice situation for, if a quarterback became available, whether it was the draft, a trade, free agency, whatever. Like, the pieces were in place for that to still be a successful competitive team as you look to upgrade. So I think that's not a bad way to do it. I mean, that model is sort of what you would think, I don't know that it aligns exactly with the Eagles, but, if they're using these draft picks or if they're adding talent to the roster and a year from now we're saying, man, they did a nice job the last 2 years and they've got a lot of great talent under 25 years old, then all of a sudden, if we're having this conversation next year and Jalen Hurts isn't great and Kyler Murray, somebody else is available, then all of a sudden it might become a different conversation.
The last thing I wanted to ask, Sheil, I know you've talked about it, but since you have the Seahawks perspective, I think would you give them a D on the grade? Let's take down that Seahawks franchise for a few minutes.
Yeah, I think it's I think Russell Wilson, his camp, his agent were probably a complete pain in the A to deal with. I don't discount that. I mean, the story our Seattle writers did, Michael Sean, Mike Sando, and Jason Jenks pretty much said that Wilson's agent would call around to reporters and they were really worried about the narrative and what's being said on local radio, and they're not putting Russ in position to succeed. I'm sure that stuff gets exhausting and annoying, and you reach a point where you say it's not worth it. We want to move on. But as I said, when Chip Kelly released Evan Mathis back in the day, Don Draper gift, that's what the money's for. I mean, those are the issues you have to deal with as a head coach or a GM. Your job is to put your team in position to win games, to compete for Super Bowls. And there's no argument that the Seahawks are better positioned to do that now than they were with Russell Wilson. I mean, they were 8th in DVOA last year. Like, now look at the roster. I mean, I'm going through the roster for this free agency rankings. They have no right or left tackle. They have no pass rush. They have nothing at cornerback. They just released their best linebacker, and they just got rid of their best at their quarterback. Like, I think they're going to find out pretty quickly how much the quarterback can make up for other flaws on the roster. And I'm not saying Wilson was certainly not a top 5 quarterback over the last 2 years. I think he had ups and downs. I don't think there was ever a situation where you looked at it and said the scheme, the coaching, the offensive philosophy was putting him in position to maximize his talent. They have 2 great wide receivers, and the rest of the roster is pretty much garbanzo beans when you look at it. So I don't think they should have done this move now. I think they should have waited a year. I think Wilson is too worried about his image and his legacy to go as far as to sit out games and say, I'm so unhappy that I'm not playing. I mean, that just flat out was not going to happen. And so you got to have the hard conversations and say, you're not happy with us. We're not thrilled with you, but guess what? You're under contract for the next 2 years. We'll revisit this after the season, but let's be professionals about this and go about our business. I mean, Pete Carroll has dealt with Marshawn Lynch and Michael Bennett and Earl Thomas. That was his calling card, was being able to kind of navigate through these difficult situations. And so to just kind of throw it out the window here with no plan at quarterback, to me, was pretty mind-boggling. It's not even about the compensation. I think the compensation was fine. You get the 9th overall pick. You get 5 picks in the deal. To me, it's not even about that. It's just now's not the time. That deal was going to be on the table next offseason, which, by the way, I do wonder if the Eagles looked at it and we're like, all right, if he doesn't get traded this offseason, that could, we can buy our time and maybe we pounce on that next offseason, where now that option is not available either to them.
All right. Let's take a little break, and we will be back on the other side with Quacketology. 64 free agents. Who could sign with the Eagles, but who is the most likely?
It's a new league year, which means it's time to leave behind the things that don't serve you, like old safeties or overdraft fees. When your checking account balance is running low, the last thing you need is an overdraft fee. But with Chime, an award-winning app and debit card, you can save that hard-earned paper, that late sugar, without paying overdraft fees. Eligible members can overdraft up to $200 on debit card purchases and cash withdrawals with absolutely no overdraft fees. Make your first good decision in 2022 and join over 10 million people using Chime. That's almost as many people listen to Birds with Friends. Sign up, takes only 2 minutes, and doesn't affect your credit score. Get started today at chime.com/BWF. That's chime.com/BWF. Banking services provided by and debit card issued by the Bancorp Bank or Stride Bank NA, members FDIC. Eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Overdraft only applies to debit card purchases and cash withdrawals. Limits start at $20 and may be increased up to $200 by Chime. See chime.com/spotme. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Relationships take work. Just ask the Eagles and Carson Wentz, or the Colts and Carson Wentz, or the Commanders and Carson Wentz in a couple months. A lot of us will drop anything to go help someone we care about. We'll go out of our way to treat other people well, but how often do we give ourselves the same treatment? This month, BetterHelp Online Therapy wants to remind you to take care of your most important relationship, the one you have with good old number one, yourself. Whether it's hitting the gym, making time for your haircut, or even trying therapy, you are your greatest asset. So invest the time and effort into yourself like you do for other people. BetterHelp is online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Give it a try and see why over 2 million people, that's almost as many people as listen to Birds with Friends, have used BetterHelp Online Therapy. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Birds with Friends listeners can get $10 off their first month at betterhelp.com/BWF. That's BETTERHELP.com/BWF.
All right, welcome back to Birds with Friends. Bo Wolf, Zach Berman, Sheil Kapadia. It's time to get into Quacketology, gentlemen. And, what are you laughing at, Zach?
Bo's face. I'm sorry, Sheil's face when you said that.
Well, I was thinking about
exciting.
when Bo mentioned this, we're going to start at 2. I said I have to be done by 4. And Zach legitimately texted, are we sure we're going to be done? But he goes, what did you say? At the risk of Sheil rolling his eyes.
Yes, exactly.
So anyway,
It's going to be tight. It is going to be tight.
I don't think it is.
Okay. So, I was a nerdy little college basketball fan growing up. Loved a bracket. Loved making a bracket. Did
you run the pool? And I mean, we were doing them as early as probably
7th and 8th grade.
Yeah. I think it started 4th, 5th, 6th grade. I think I was in charge probably a couple of those years, or when my sister was older and when she would come home with whoever had, done the bracket in high school, and I would get to fill it out. It was so exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. I was nerdy enough that I would do like my own top 25s every week during the college basketball season.
Oh, it sounds like Z-Berm.
Yeah, I feel like this was my Z-Berm phase.
I
would always get very mad when the actual selection committee would not follow their bracket rules. Like when there would be a conference rematch a potential conference rematch in the second round, because I spent so much time trying to abide by all the bracket principles, and then they just willy-nilly decided they didn't matter. What's up with that?
All right, now we're getting a little too deep. Let's get to the Quacketology.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, I had fun putting this bracket together. So, we have 4 regions. Everybody has been seeded based on where they rank in Sheil's top 150. There are a few people who are outside the top 150. Every position group is represented. Just like every conference is represented in.
Didn't I yell at you for this before, Zach? Didn't I yell at him for this? I'm putting at 150, and he can't find 64 in there. He's got to go beyond the 150.
Listen, I did the research.
I'm pretty sure I went off last year.
I did the work
this,
on the shopping guide. I can't just throw that stuff aside.
So just for
4,500 words on Obo Okoronkwo.
So just for favorite, apparently, I learned yesterday.
So just for clarification here, we're going what we think the Eagles will do, not our favorite, but not.
Correct. But we will. We can discuss the players.
So we're
being what you would prefer to do. But the winner of this is who moves on is who the majority of the 3 of us think the Eagles are more likely to sign.
Have we ever gotten it before?
No, I believe last year the winner was Anthony Walker. which was close to Eric Wilson. I think Eric Wilson was
Walker would have been a better signing.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, so we're being forecasters, though. We're not being evaluators. We're being
Correct.
forecasters. Okay.
Yes, but you can discuss your evaluation in the
Okay.
I feel like Final Four we've gotten somebody, right, or no?
I think maybe a few
Daniz,
years
get
ago
to work.
we
You've
did,
been quiet. Yeah, Daniz, come on. You've had too much free time recently.
Okay, so we start with the play-in games, the first four.
Oh my God.
We have for who's going to represent the quarterbacks. We have Jacoby Brissett against Cam Newton. Jacoby Brissett, number 121, and Sheil's top 150. Cam Newton 102. If the Eagles were to move on from Gardner Minshew, get a trade from him, who would they be more likely to sign?
I'd say Jacoby Brissett. From my understanding, last year they really liked him. Sirianni liked him when they worked together with the Colts. He's someone who has a background with a lot of guys on this coaching staff. He signed for 1 year, $5 million last year. If they were to trade Minshew, that would be right in the wheelhouse of what they would go after.
Okay, so if I remember this correctly, well, look at this. Did Kent do this?
Oh yeah,
Kent. Kent.
Now this is a good chance for the audio listeners to move over to YouTube.
Yeah,
Kent has put the bracket together.
This. Unbelievable, Kent. I mean, talk about underappreciated employees at The Athletic, Kent and Marissa. I mean, they better be getting some salute love sometime soon, I would say. All right, so if I remember this correctly, we discussed these players in the first round, and then after that, we're kind of
math wise, there are more matchups in the first round than all of the rest of the tournament combined.
I think Zach is right. More likely would be Brissett. He's got the connection. Cam Newton, I don't know what kind of deal he wants. I mean, the Panthers made one of the most mind-boggling deals when they signed him to that kind of money in the middle of last season when they had no competition. So I still think he wants that kind of money. Now, I do think Newton's kind of interesting because he still is like a very talented runner. I mean, this is like adding a red zone weapon to your team if you're willing to be creative and do that. Brissett actually did get brought in a little bit for some like QB sneaks and stuff, if memory serves, over the past couple of years. But yeah, I would go with Brissett.
Well, that was just because Phillip Rivers refused to do it, right?
No, remember that game we covered in 2017 where Brissett got called in to throw the Hail Mary again. Remember Andrew Luck still had the neck issues.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
okay, all right. Jacoby Brissett moves on. We move to running back, the play-in game. We have Rashad Penny, number 135 on Sheil's list, versus Deontay Foreman, who is a big back who filled in adequately for Derrick Henry with the Titans down the stretch. Both of these guys considered busts until the second half of the 2021 season.
I'll jump in here. I would go Rashad Penny. I think draft pedigree does matter. I know it's belittled, but oftentimes evaluators say, all right, well, what can we do to tap the potential that didn't work elsewhere? And in Penny's defense, he came on strong at the end of last season with Seattle. So there is talent there. Former first-round pick. I would think him over Foreman would be more likely. I don't think they sign either one of them, but I would think Penny.
I would argue. I would go the other way. I would say that I think Rashad Penny gets a real.
Bo loves Rashad Penny. This has been revealing to me, Zach, via text. And he's looking at he got Rashad Penny a little low. I go, what? Rashad Penny a little low. Go ahead, Bo. Give the reason.
I'm not saying I think that he's great, but his numbers down the stretch were insane. And
do you want to hear my favorite nugget I unearthed?
If I'm a GM, I would much rather sign Rashad Penny with like less tread on his tires than be signing Melvin Gordon or James Conner.
Ready for this stat? This was one of my favorites. I mean, followers, one of you should have did a copy and paste on this bad boy or something. I feel like this could have gotten some good engagement here. Last 10 years, there have been 454 running backs with at least 100 carries in a season, or 454 running back seasons. So it could have been the same guy, multiple years. Among that sample, Rashad Penny's 2021 ranks first in yards per carry at 6.3. First out of 454.
So why are you burying him?
Down the stretch last year, weeks 13 to 17, had 516 yards, second to only Jonathan Taylor. Why am I burying him? Because he's been in the league for 4 years, and we're talking about a 5-game sample in those 4 years. He's appeared in 37 total games. He didn't do anything until the last month of last season. I mean, talk about free agency mistakes. A team that gives him significant money based on that is out of their gourd. I mean, that would be absolutely ridiculous. And so I think there will be a team that does that. I don't think the Eagles are that type of team that would, be willing to give him like so much as $3 million to join their team based on that. And so I'm going with D'Onta Foreman because I don't think there will be as much of a market for D'Onta Foreman. Yeah. And I don't know what his numbers were. Maybe you have them in front of you. Bo, he didn't make my 150, but just from the eye test last year, I actually didn't think he ran bad. I mean, he definitely broke off some big runs there, and I don't think he's somebody who's going to cost you a lot.
And he presents a skill set the Eagles don't have in the
big boy
at the moment. Yeah.
Dreads, right? Big boy with dreads? Yes. Yeah. Okay.
All right, we move to another play-in game at the tight end position. Another player who I texted Sheil about, much to his dismay.
This is going way too slow, by the way.
We have Mo Alley Cox. We have Mo Alley Cox, who played with Sirianni at the Colts, against Durham Smythe, the number 2 tight end with the Dolphins, who played 62% of the snaps next to Mike Gesicki last year, 24-357 for the Philadelphia native, Zach.
Where's he from? High school or born?
Smythe's a Philly native?
He's a Philly guy, according to Pro Football Reference, born in Philly.
I swear that 90% of the players I pull up on Pro Football Reference, it says born Philadelphia. I mean, there are like 8 times a day where this happens to me.
Yeah, he went to high school.
People just getting busy in Philadelphia like 27 years ago. Was there like a big blizzard or something that I forgot about, where people were just inside making babies who turned into football players? Bo, you're with me, right? I saw your eyes.
This happens all the time.
Yeah. So I would go in this equation. I would go Mo Alley Cox, former basketball player. Who,
of course, most famous for me predicting on the erstwhile Journey to the Draft podcast that as a college basketball player, he would be a future NFL tight end.
There you go. VCU, if you recall, he was there, and he has experience with a lot of guys on this coaching staff. And so if they were to sign a backup tight end of those two, I could see Alley Cox. The thing is, the reason Smythe played as often as he did last year is he was the blocking tight end. Gesicki was almost like the slot receiver for them. So if they wanted to have more of the natural blocker, you could go Smythe, but I would still think Alley Cox would be the way to go.
Tight end market's out of control. Like, I mean, who knows? Mo Alley Cox could get $6 million a year or something crazy. I mean, he's by all accounts a better player than Ian Thomas, who the Carolina Panthers signed in one of the most mind-boggling deals to $5.6 million a year. So I don't know that either of them is likely, but yeah, I'm just going to not overthink it and say Alley Cox has the Colts connection with Sirianni. I don't know that you need like a blocking tight end. Goddard can block. And so I would go with him.
All right. Finally, we have the offensive line matchup. Unlikely the Eagles will make a big splash here, but potentially if they were to do so, let's say Jason Kelce retires, James Daniels, the young interior offensive lineman from the Bears, 25 years old, probably going to get a big deal, but could interest the Eagles if they want to play at the top of the market. Or you need a swing tackle if you're going to trade Andre Dillard. How about Dennis Kelly, who, according to the numbers, how trustworthy they are, we don't know, the 3rd best per snap protector among all tackles in the league last year.
They're not going to get James Daniels, so I would go Dennis Kelly.
Yeah, James Daniels will be paid to be a starter, and probably, he hasn't played great, but so that's not even. I mean, I would imagine he's not even like on a list for them. I don't see any scenario. Yeah. Now, watch, they're going to go out and see it. They're just first signing Monday, the negotiating. Adam Schefter tweets out, Eagles and James Daniels have agreed to a 4-year deal worth $60 million. Yeah. No. Yes, I guess Kelly, but is Kelly like a legit swing tackle though? I mean, he's been mostly a right tackle, I believe, but
he's more like a tackle guard type. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's right. So yeah, okay. Kelly.
All right. We move now to the main part of the bracket, the Alshon Jeffrey region. So we have 15 wide receivers and Mo Alley Cox.
Oh, you arranged it like? Do you always do this by position?
No, this is new.
Oh. You were wondering if we'd notice, and we almost didn't.
That's right. So the Alshon Jeffrey region, again, ranked, seeded in order of where they rank on Sheil's top 150. So we have number 1, Allen Robinson, who is the 9th overall player on Sheil's 150, 29 years old, coming off a down year in Chicago. He goes up against Mo Alley Cox.
I'm going to go Alley Cox. I think Robinson. Oh, so is this this was the 116? Wait, but it's ranked by how I ranked them?
Yes.
Oh, so it's not ranked by like the most likely guy is the 1 seed.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
I was going to say, this is like a Virginia UMBC situation. Yeah.
Yeah. Robinson is coming off a down year, but I mean, wide receivers usually get paid. I don't think they're going to give big money to somebody like that. And I would say Alley Cox would be more likely.
I would think Allen Robinson would be more likely in a 1-year deal to reset his value. I don't know if Philadelphia is the best place to reset his value, but I think that when you look at what the market might be, it is a crowded receiver group. Perhaps in the Alshon Jeffrey bracket, he literally takes the Alshon Jeffrey route, which is the Bears.
And someone points out I should have loudly announced this as the Alshon Jeffrey regional.
Yes.
Okay. So you go.
Oh, I hadn't scrolled down. I thought comments had stopped. Okay. Yeah. Blizzard of 95 and 96. Everyone's pointing out. Maybe there was something to that.
So I'm sorry, Zach, you're going Allen Robinson. So I have to break the tie.
You break the tie.
My sense is that the Eagles are not likely to spend at the very top of the wide receiver market. So I will go with a Mo Alley Cox reunion on the cheap. A 16-1 upset. Interesting. Okay, the 8-9 matchup. Number 49 on Sheil's
short and tight.
Number 49 on Sheil's list, Marquez Valdez-Scantling versus number 9, the 63rd overall player, Will Fuller. Zach, Will Fuller from
Roman Catholic.
There you go.
Yes, watched Will Fuller in high school. That guy can run.
That's pretty much what the scouting report has been on him since then. I can run. I think the Marquez Valdez-Scantling thing, I feel like has a chance to be what turns out to be the worst contract of the offseason. Like this guy moving to a non-Aaron Rodgers quarterback, I feel like, and getting paid like $10-12 million could be a disaster for somebody.
He's gonna get paid.
This is another area where the Panthers screwed up the market by giving Robbie Anderson over $14 million a year. Now, Will Fuller signed a 1-year, $10 million deal last offseason. And what did he barely played last year, right? What did he play in? Played in 2 games last year. And so you would think that number comes down. So I don't know. Will Fuller, 1 year, $8 million flyer, always injured. But if it's a 1-year deal and you just need someone to stretch the field, that would make more sense to me. I would think Valdez-Scantling, I would agree with you, Bo. I could see him going to a bad team, but there are a lot of teams that just want someone who can run, stretch the field. So I think he will have more of a market. So I will go with Fuller.
Okay,
I'm going Fuller as well.
I know Zach's going with Fuller.
Yes.
I mean, Zach's just putting Fuller in the Final Four already. Probably.
No,
when you do that, sometimes
you
just like the team and you just keep putting them in there.
That's why I asked, are we forecasting here or are we evaluating? If we were evaluating, we can call this right now. Give me Will Fuller, right? I mean, I wouldn't have to drive far.
Well, no, it's interesting because the Eagles have not had success bringing Philly guys home.
It's such a small sample.
We don't need to get into that conversation. Yeah.
All right. The 5-12, Michael Gallup, number 38 on Sheil's list, against Emmanuel Sanders, number 114, 35 years old. I actually don't think that like signing someone like Emmanuel Sanders is the craziest thing for the Eagles.
I think Sanders a shot. I think that might be a little too.
Sorry if you're listening, Emmanuel. You've had a great career.
Yeah.
He gets signed by the Eagles. He listens back to this podcast to familiarize himself with the most popular Eagles content.
All right, perhaps
to Emmanuel Sanders, and it's like.
Perhaps that was a little excessive.
I was involved in once getting Emmanuel Sanders some of that sweet paid content money, baby.
Ooh, good job.
So I think Michael Gallup would be more of the route they would go. That said, with Amari Cooper likely on his way out, part of that is to facilitate a return for Michael Gallup. So perhaps Emmanuel Sanders is more likely, but I'll still say Gallup here.
Yeah, I think Gallup's going back to Dallas, and if he hits the open market, we'll have more of a market. Emmanuel Sanders, I don't know why he would sign with the Eagles on a 1-year deal at 35 years old. I don't know that he's going to keep playing, but, say they have an injury in the spring, or training camp comes around and they say, hey, shoot, these guys are not developing. We need another wide receiver.
$2 million.
And he wants to keep playing. So I would say Sanders would be more likely.
Okay. I agree with you. Sanders moves on. Next up, this is probably the highlight matchup of the first round for the wide receivers. We have the 4 seed Christian Kirk, who is number 18 on Sheil's list, 25 years old, going up against Sirianni's boy, Zach Pascal, number 116. My understanding of Zach Pascal is that he's the Jalen Hurts of receivers, in that he does everything well that you want except for get open and catch the ball.
So I have an issue with the selection committee here. Why are you putting this great matchup? Right, this should be an Elite 8 matchup. This should. I know why you're doing it.
I'm
by
glad
the
you
rankings.
asked, Zach, because as I complained about before, I stick to the bracket principles. I stick to the rules.
Okay, yeah. I mean, this should be something that's prime time on Sunday night for the Elite 8. This shouldn't be something that's
these
Thursday
are two of the more likely
3 o'clock.
more likely answers. I agree, but
exactly.
that happens.
So I'll give you my quick rundown here. There's a rumor going around at the combine that Christian Kirk is a player to watch for the Eagles. One thing that I did write the other day was that the Eagles could be in the market for a slot receiver, that they don't think Quez Watkins is a slot only guy. There's this idea that I perpetuated based on what I think, that the Eagles need a prototypical X receiver, kind of opposite of Devontae Smith. But from my understanding, they're looking more for 3 guys who they can move around the formation. So Devontae, Quez Watkins, and perhaps a slot guy. Christian Kirk has a background with Aaron Moorhead. He has a background with Kevin Patullo. He's an ascending player. They could be priced out of the Christian Kirk market.
Now, is it Christian Kirk or Kirk Christian?
It's Christian Kirk.
Okay.
But I think they will be involved in trying to get Christian Kirk here. I also think Zach Pascal could be a fallback option, because I don't think he's going to be expensive. So I'm going to go Christian Kirk here, but this one's a really tough matchup to pick. And the loser of this could actually win the bracket. So hard to say.
Now, there is also a bit of a misconception about Christian Kirk, I believe, because he played primarily in the slot last year. But before that, he spent plenty of time on the outside.
Yes.
So he can play on the outside. Sorry,
when Larry Fitzgerald was there, he played on the outside. Yes.
Right.
77 catches for 982 yards last year. I mean, they're going to be, and he's 25 years old. They're going to be willing to pay to, I don't know, maybe. I mean, I would be surprised if they made a splash like that and were the highest bidder for someone like that. It makes sense that they would be in on that type of player, but you're talking about a floor of probably $12 million a year for Christian Kirk, with some legitimate upside there. If multiple teams get involved, Pascal to me seems like the classic sign a guy who could be starting caliber and try to draft over him type deal. So I think Pascal to me would be more likely on a much more reasonable contract.
I will go and break the tie and go with Pascal as well. I think the interest in Christian Kirk is maybe a little overstated. It feels like one of those things that was a whisper down the lane thing at the combine, right? One person hears that, and then all of a sudden everybody hears it. He makes sense, but I think
How do you know?
Right.
You don't know what Zach was. I mean, Zach wasn't with you the entire. I know we spent a lot of time together.
True.
It wasn't every waking moment.
I'm not. No. But Zach didn't say he heard. He said it was a
okay.
thing at the combine, right? This was not Zach's reporting.
Listen, let's. We're this is a podcast. This isn't like going on the front
Pascal.
page of the New York Times.
I think if they're going to make a big splash,
casually.
it's not going to be a receiver. I'm going Pascal.
I have an assignment for Denise in the time I've been on this podcast. So since July of 2019,
I'm so
when there's
excited.
when there's been a tie, when there's been a tie for Bo to break, how often has he gone with Sheil's side? Because I would say it's probably like 95-5 in Sheil's.
I have thought about this before, and I have consciously gone on your side in order to make sure that it's not too lopsided. So.
You're like the Eagles front office trying to overcorrect.
Overcorrect.
All right, Zach's never going to let us hear the end of this if they sign Christian Kirk, by the way.
I agree with that.
And rightfully so. Yeah, this could be your
Definitely
your Josh
so.
Sweat type.
Yeah, he
type
could
moment,
kill me.
yeah.
He could kill us for it.
No,
Although,
I
as we
agree.
said,
They
this
might
was
be priced out. Yeah,
this
they might
was
be
a
priced
this
out.
was a Titanic matchup in the
Oh
first
my
round.
God, we're in the first region here. Let's
All right,
go.
we go next to DJ Chark, coming off the injury, but all the way up at number 17 in Sheil's ranking. Maybe a good candidate for a big money 1-year deal to rebuild his value. Only 26 years old, going up against Braxton Berrios, number 119 on Sheil's list. Not the kind of guy I usually like, but I dug into a little Braxton Berrios. I feel like he makes sense for the Eagles.
So
Slot
far
guy
be it from
and
me.
solves their kickoff return issue. He was the All-Pro kickoff returner,
Of the
as they
three
saw
of
up
us,
close.
of the three of us, I'm the last one on this podcast who should correct pronunciations. Okay, because I'm like the Bill Simmons of this podcast in terms of pronunciations. But
Flex.
I believe it's Shark and not Shark.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me it was like Barrios, but
No. It's
DJ Shark.
it's DJ Shark. Yes, it's pronounced Shark.
So
I agree with what you said about Berrios. I actually think he could be an intriguing fit. I don't see why the Jets are going to let him go. I mean, they have cap space. They have a need at the position. And Jacksonville seems, they're in transition here. Shark he had a 1,000-yard season his second year there. His production has declined since then. The general manager who drafted him is now in this Eagles front office. He'd be a guy who I would target. And I can see him as a guy that they could potentially target. So I'm going to go DJ Shark here.
Yeah, Shark would be that would not be a bad move. Now he may have to settle for the Will Fuller 1-year, $10 million deal because he's coming off a season in which he played just 4 games. Or a team could say we don't care about that, like they did with Kenny Golladay last year. The Giants did, and pay him a big deal. I think you're probably talking about in the neighborhood of $15 million a year for DJ Chark. So you're making a legit commitment here to him. He's 26 years old. I think he's a good player with upside. I'm just a little skeptical that they would go that jump into that market. Berrios to me is not going to be expensive. You were talking about a slot receiver. I mean, he's a slot receiver. Depth helps you on special teams. I think that's more the neighborhood they're going to be shopping in. So I'm going Berrios.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been boxed into a corner here. I can't side with you now after Zach called me out.
Sure you can. Stick to your guns.
No, say what you think. Otherwise,
exactly.
we'll do this whole thing when you're wrong. About
I like
Berrios,
Berrios, but I actually think Shark is more. I think it's more likely that they've got, let's say they've got a target safety who signed somewhere else. They've got like an allotted big money contract to spend, and they move it to Shark. So I will go Shark. Next up, Juju Smith-Schuster, who the Eagles were reportedly somewhat interested in last offseason, is at 47 on Sheil's list. Had that one big season 3 years ago, has been very disappointing since, but only 25 years old. Against Sammy Watkins, who's number 104 on Sheil's list, will be 29 next season.
I could really see it with Smith-Schuster. I mean, slot receiver, but maybe he can play on the outside. He's 25 years old. I think he does the little stuff that will be appealing to a Sirianni. He's a competitive guy. He makes tough catches over the middle. He gets after it in the run game, which I personally don't care about, but I would imagine that they do care about. Only got a 1-year, $8 million deal last offseason and is now coming off a season in which he had just 15 catches for 129 yards. Like if that number comes down, he's a guy who I think if you, depending on how you guys vote, could make some noise in this bracket. Sammy Watkins, I mean, I wouldn't really want anything to do with Sammy Watkins now. He's kind of bounced around every year and not been that productive.
Smith-Schuster, also a fun guy to cover. So I would like that. Cover as a reporter, not cover as a corner.
I know that's right.
Apparently not that difficult to cover.
Yeah.
As a corner. I agree, Smith-Schuster, but I just think Sammy Watkins is not even like, he's not good, but he would be useful on this team. Like they could still use somebody to line up out there. If it's like a $4 million deal, I think that's fine. You disagree? Okay.
I just don't want to tie. I want to move on. That's all.
Okay. Russell Gage, 48 on Sheil's list, 26 under the radar player. Feel like this could be an interesting option for the Eagles. He goes up against AJ Green, who's 34 years old.
Yeah, I would go Russell Gage here. And my quick note on Russell Gage, probably like the most anonymous LSU receiver in the NFL. A lot of these LSU receivers, you watch them like 3-4 years in college. He was there, but you really had to watch every LSU game to recall that. But Russell Gage in this category.
Yeah, nearly 1,600 yards over the past 2 seasons. I mean, so that's like a legit, number 2 wide receiver production, 26 years old. So I think, he's maybe a rich man's version of Zach Pascal, I guess you could say. And so might cost a little bit more, but if they want like a legit starting caliber guy who's not going to break the bank, it would make sense. I mean, AJ Green would make no sense to me. I thought he was cooked 2 years ago. He was better last year for the Cardinals for sure, but I don't know why you would want to mess with someone who's that old right now.
So we've got Emmanuel Sanders shot and AJ Green cooked just for them.
I still like Emmanuel Sanders a little bit. I'm not going.
Well, you have Emmanuel Sanders at 114 and AJ Green at 85.
Well, AJ Green was better last year.
Okay.
If you're on your 4th team in 4 years, I think that says something, doesn't it?
Jeez.
I think the Russell Gage thing.
What the hell did Emmanuel Sanders do to you? My God. He had 600 yards last year.
I think you're right.
I think Russell Gage is interesting. Like I might be interested in him if I were the Eagles. Okay. Now we have a theoretical one here. Amari Cooper, if the Cowboys do go through with cutting him, is at number 2. I'm just guessing where Sheil would have him. And he goes up against Zach's boy, the most dangerous weapon in the league, Jamison Crowder at 127.
Cooper would be number 1, by the way.
He would
Cooper
be
is
ahead of
better,
Allen Robinson.
wide receiver than
that.
Allen Robinson. That's a lot of money. Even there's something going on there where teams don't want him. I would probably be pretty cautious about that one. He can definitely play and be productive, but that would surprise me. So I'll go Crowder. Inexpensive slot receiver. We could, mock Zebram about it all season long. If he has no catches, it's really just
he has this monster year, and Zach, it just the year of ZB becomes like the sequel
continues. Yeah, it's like the decade.
Yeah,
I mean, Jamison Crowder can play. I'd rather have Amari Cooper on my team. I think Amari Cooper is going to get big money in
not if I was immunocompromised
in a place like Jacksonville. But give me Jamison Crowder for this exercise.
Okay, we'll do it a little differently this year. Instead of going all the way through the first round, why don't we fill out this region and we'll crown a wide receiver winner. So we next go Mo Alley Cox against Will Fuller.
Alley Cox.
Fuller.
So it's gonna be Fuller. Okay, so we can go on here.
I'm just gonna do that every time.
I'm gonna go. I could see Fuller.
We don't need to discuss these. Just pick.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Emmanuel Sanders against Zach Pascal.
Zach Pascal.
Pascal
the Rascal. Next up, DJ Shark against Juju Smith-Schuster.
I would say Juju is more likely. I would go Shark, but I think Juju is more likely.
Smith-Schuster.
Okay. And then Russell Gage against Jamison Crowder.
Gage.
Okay. Will Fuller against Pascal the Rascal.
Pascal.
Juju Smith-Schuster against Russell Gage.
Juju.
Wow. The Elite Eight matchup to crown the winner of the Alshon Jeffrey region. Zach Pascal against Juju Smith-Schuster. Who moves to the Final Four?
Sheil first.
Pascal.
Yeah, I stand by what I said.
So exciting.
I stand by what I said. That
you just love a Zach.
No, I said the Kirk Pascal matchup.
Oh.
The loser of that can win the bracket. Well, I'm right there because Zach Pascal Zach Pascal goes to the Final Four.
27 years old, 38 catches for 384 yards last year, but 2019 to 2020 had over 1,200 yards total and 10 touchdowns.
His numbers were terrible. I was looking at it's like the per
quarterback
route
wasn't great. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, come on. That would be. I mean, they do need to sign somebody, but if that's the answer, it's a little disappointing.
There would be nothing exciting about that.
They need to if they sign him, it just means that they need to draft someone in the first 3 rounds.
This would be like Doug P signing Chase Daniel. All right, Sirianni loves him some Zach Pascal.
Yeah. All right, we move now to the Chris Long region. We have 15 edge rushers and Dennis Kelly as the 16 seed. Chandler Jones, number 3 on Sheil's list against Dennis Kelly, who's more likely to land with the Eagles.
Oh, so Dennis Kelly just lands with all the edge rushers? Yeah. Why didn't you put this in the O-line region? Oh,
there is no line of region.
It actually makes sense because the edge rushers go up
there's
against
nothing
offensive
about this
linemen.
that makes
The
sense.
tight
Okay.
ends are like wide receivers.
Dennis
the
Kelly. I
quarterbacks
don't
are going
think
up
they're-
against the secondary,
Dennis
and then the
Kelly.
running backs are going up against the linebackers. I thought it all through.
Dennis Kelly.
This is great. Dennis Kelly. They're not
Okay.
signing Chandler Jones.
Congratulations to Dennis Kelly. The 8-9 matchup, Justin Houston, number 77 on Shield's list, 33 years old, against Dante Fowler, number 89, 28 years old, coming off a very disappointing string in Atlanta. Could be looking for a one-year rebuild type deal.
I actually think Justin Houston in a Kerrigan type role here.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, Justin Houston was much better last year, I think, than probably Kerrigan was the year before, but he barely got any money last year as a free agent. So yeah, I think I would go with Houston.
I would have gone Fowler. So there you go. Now I think
I was on the fence there. I mean, Fowler, I don't think is good, but he's young, and he's probably going to be cheap. But they're both
he's
probably
got
gonna
that.
be
He's
cheap.
got that anchored first round value that Howie might be interested in. I think defensive end is the second most pressing free agent need for them after safety, and it doesn't have to be. They don't have to play at the top of the market, but it's very similar to me as a wide receiver was 2 years ago in the Jalen Reagor year, where they need to sign somebody so that they don't have to force a pick in the draft, even though they're going to draft an edge rusher. Like right now, it's Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, and Teron Jackson. Brandon Graham's 34 coming off a torn Achilles. Like they can't rely on anything from him. So they need a body here. So
Justin Houston was in Indy with their coaching staff.
Yes.
Right?
That's true.
So that's
There you go.
Real quick, breaking news here. Major League Baseball and the MLB Players Association have reached a tentative agreement on a new labor deal
Wow.
per Jeff Passan. So,
Well,
big
are we
news.
sure it's Jeff Passan or was he hacked again?
I mean, I imagine this is going to be all over the place in a minute here.
I don't know that I've ever paid less attention to a story.
It's a tough scene.
Just
It's good to have
All right.
baseball back. Yes.
Well, let's get it back first. Okay. Next up, Emmanuel Agba, the 5 seed, number 20 on Shield's list, against Al-Qadim Muhammad, who is unranked on Shield's list.
The
A
font
Colts-
on Al-Qadim Muhammad, because of how many letters are in his name, is really I feel like I'm doing an eye test here. Like cover one eye. What's the third letter? QWZY. You can barely see it.
Al-Qadim Muhammad, 27 years old, played on the Colts with Gannon, and by the I did those like quadrants on the shopping guide of played a lot and affected the pass rusher. He does not score well on that. He is not a great player.
Al-Qadim Muhammad.
Yeah.
Al-Qadim Muhammad's he was a former, I believe, Don Bosco prep. I recall him in high school when I was in North Jersey there. But I think they'll be priced out of Agba because I don't think they're going to pay huge here. And Muhammad has a little background with some people on the staff. So give me Muhammad.
I mean, if we're doing a bracket of the like nuggets from bracketology, Al-Qadim Muhammad going to Don Bosco prep has to be a 1 seed. I mean, I would say. I mean, really, how many listeners are just going to be rushing home to their families, dropping that nugget?
Dude,
I'll go.
that I can tell you that's the tip of the iceberg if you want nuggets here, because I'm
You got more on
got
Al-Qadim?
Why would anyone
I got-
listen to this?
I got
All right.
nuggets for almost all these players.
Al-Qadim Muhammad. Agba, I think, is going to be an expensive, coveted player.
All right. Speaking of former Colts defensive linemen, we have Randy Gregory, the 4 seed, going up against Kamoko Ture, who's 27 years old. He actually was pretty efficient as a pass rusher in terms of hitting the quarterback, has had trouble staying healthy, but curiously, even though he was effective last year, did not play very much for a team that was starved for pass rush help. Former second round
Ture,
pick.
he's got the connection. Gregory is a big buyer beware. I mean, has played in 12 games last year, was a rotational player in 2020, out of football in 2019, has played more than 12 games just once in his career. I would be very cautious about paying him a lot of money. So Ture.
I would go Ture as well.
And he's a Jersey guy too.
He is a Jersey guy.
We
I
don't
believe
know
he
him.
also
Oh,
in
God.
Carson
Please.
Wentz's first game back against the Eagles back in 2018. I believe he had a sack that game.
There you go. An
Sick
interesting matchup in the 314. We have Hassan
Pat.
Reddick, Another Philadelphia connection, Camden native, the 3 seed, 14th overall on Sheil's list, 28. I believe 5th in the league in sacks over the past 2 seasons. Versus a guy you might remember from the Eagles-Cardinals game 2 years ago, Dennis Gardeck, the 28-year-old diminutive, sort of
That's
interesting
relative.
player. I know. I knew that was going to come. I know that's all relative. The highest rate of hitting the quarterback per pass rush in the league over the past 2 seasons, had 7 sacks 2 years ago, none last year. Something weird's going on, but could be an interesting option to fill that same position. Got to be better than Jannard Avery.
I think Reddick, if they're going to make a splash, would probably be on my short list. So I think that, like you said, last 2 years, players with more sacks than Hassan Reddick, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson, and Aaron Donald. That's it. So 28 years old, could play that same linebacker position, which I'm so freaking sick of hearing about, but could give you some pass rush, a lot of pass rush actually. And so didn't have a big market last offseason, a 1-year, $6 million deal. So I would go with Reddick.
I would go Reddick too, but before you sign him, before you pay any money, you would need to say to Jonathan Gannon, what is your plan for him? Don't try to fit Hassan Reddick into your defense. Have a plan tailored around Hassan Reddick, because you don't spend money on him unless you have a plan.
The 6 versus 11, Charles Harris, 42nd overall on Sheil's list, against Lorenzo Carter, 124th on Sheil's list. Both guys relatively young. Harris, of course, was in the Barnett draft, and Eagles chose Barnett over him. Would be somewhat ironic for them to sign him now.
No strong feeling, Lorenzo Carter. Yeah. Let's move on.
So actually, Lorenzo Carter is one of my sleeper.
Okay. I take it back.
Well, not for the Eagles. If I was a GM though, and I was trying to look for like an underrated pass rusher, I think Lorenzo Carter is a place I will look. Like, real toolsy coming out of Georgia. He's shown the ability to get to the passer. You know, he had like 4.5, 5.5 sacks in his second year.
Mediocre.
But I think he can be a late blooming type, like gamble on those tools. He's kind of been like knee jerked into different schemes. So he's kind of an underrated guy to watch.
I never heard knee jerk to use like that before. I'm used to the knee jerk reaction. Yeah. I've never heard of somebody knee jerking somebody.
I would much rather have Lorenzo Carter than Charles Harris. I agree with that.
Okay.
Charles Harris is one of these guys. It's like Jaron Kearse or
Rasul Douglas potentially.
Right. These guys, like, you don't pay for the guy who had the surprise 1-year spike after the fact. You try to find that guy. That's easier said than done, but come on. All right. This is an interesting one. Now, you say like Reddick is the guy they could go for. To me, Uchenna Nwosu is the guy I could see the Eagles going all in for on the edge here. He is the 46th overall player on your list, Sheil, 25 years old, battled injuries a little bit in the beginning of his career, but very efficient pass rusher, versatile, can stand up a little bit. He goes up against Arden Key, who went through that 49ers defensive line rehabilitation and is number 90 on your list.
So yeah,
I think you're right.
I'm sorry. Shout out real quick to Bo's outstanding shopping list that appeared today because
nobody has read it.
I definitely read it, and you sold me on Nwosu. So I'm gonna go Nwosu because that's the exact type of profile that they should target.
Yeah, I think you make a good case for Nwosu. It's sort of Reddick light potentially.
Yeah. Finally, Jadeveon Clowney, number 10 on Sheil's list. I mean, the delightful irony of Carson Wentz coming into the division and then the Eagles signing Jadeveon Clowney might be too much for Howie to pass up on. He goes up against an unranked player and a Nate Tice favorite, apparently, you said, Sheil. Obo Okoronkwo, an efficient pass rusher on about 20% of the snaps for the Rams.
Yeah, I don't know if he's a favorite. I mean, we had to do like under the radar, names on the Athletic Football Show yesterday. And I didn't go that deep, even Uchenna Nwosu would have been, I thought, a fine under the radar name. And he's coming at me with, what's his name? Obo
Okoronkwo.
Loved him in college.
Now there's a
Loved him in
difference
college.
because there's a bit of confusion because there's also Ola Odenyi, who's on the Titans and is a very similar profile.
And Osei Odigizua.
Well, yeah, but he's not an edge free agent.
Okay, I'm going Obo.
Yeah, I mean, he was.
This
awesome
isn't
at
the year
Oklahoma.
you want to. This isn't the year you want to pay for Clowney. You want
I
to.
agree.
If you're going to take a flyer on Clowney, last offseason was the time.
Okay.
Awesome at OU.
A very funny second round matchup: Dennis Kelly against Justin Houston.
I mean,
Just-
if we're
What a
talking about,
Cinderella! What a Cinderella run for
if we're
DK.
talking about one-on-ones at training camp, I'm going Houston all day probably on that one. But more likely for the Eagles. Ooh, it's a tough one. Zach? Did you already say Houston?
Yeah, I'm going Justin. Houston.
All right, I'll go Houston.
Yeah. Why are they signing a swing to like
If
an
they
offensive
trade,
lineman?
if they
Yeah,
trade
that's
Andre
true.
Dillard,
Yeah, but they can draft and develop that position.
well, not maybe. I mean, Lane Johnson's old. Like you might need to depend on that guy. All right, Al Qadim Muhammad against Kamoko Toure. Real interesting matchup of former Colts.
And
Colts
former
on
Jersey
Colts action.
guys. Yes,
Jersey guys. I go Kamoko Toure here.
I'll go Toure.
Well, my vote doesn't matter then. I was going to
Okay.
go Muhammad.
Okay, and if you recall, Bo did a mock 53-man roster at the end of the season, and he had Toure on that roster.
Well, I didn't remember that. Hassan Reddick against Lorenzo Carter.
Hassan Reddick.
Reddick.
Uchenna Nwosu against Obo Okoronkwo.
Nwosu.
Nwosu.
Justin Houston against Kamoko Toure.
Toure.
Houston. You kind of talked me into which one of you said the Houston Kerrigan thing?
I
Zach?
said that. Yes.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
I don't think they need. I think Brandon Graham is their
That's true.
like roll of the dice on an old guy for one
Who
more
is
year.
Kimoko
But you're still going with Shields' guy.
She's
Right?
like,
No, I'm
it's
going
not.
with-
It's
I'm
not
going with
Justin
Toure.
Houston against Miles Garrett.
No, but you wrote
You have
Justin
to
Houston in
choose
there.
between two guys.
No, I
Oh,
didn't.
you
I'm
wrote
not writing
Justin-
that. That's Ken.
Oh, okay. Oh,
I'm
okay.
going with Kamoko Toure.
Ken, he went Toure. Okay.
Okay. Hassan Reddick against Uchenna Nwosu. This is interesting.
This is interesting.
It's the Reddick deal last offseason is curious. Like I'm still it was weird then that he didn't get paid more money. I feel like there's a chance Nwosu might still make more money. He's only going to be 25, whereas Reddick's going to be 28. I don't know.
Could be.
Obviously, their rankings on your top 150 disagree with that, but
I'm going Reddick.
I will go Reddick here too, because I do know Howie Roseman's prioritizing improving the pass rush this offseason, and Reddick gives you at least more established pass rushing chops.
okay. Hassan Reddick against Kamoko Toure to get to the Final Four.
Hassan Reddick for me. Didn't think I was going to go there, but as I was doing my piece with the predictions for each team, I did toy with the idea of a Hassan Reddick, but I ultimately gave him to the Seahawks.
Oh,
I guess I would go Reddick.
and I'm
Good
going
mean,
Reddick
guess.
too.
Okay. We move on to the Jatavis Brown region.
Wait, is there an ad break that we need to get to?
Oh, yes. You know what? Let's get
Okay.
to the ad break, and then we'll come back with the Jatavis Brown region.
Boy, what a tease.
We're talking about NFL free agency. There's college basketball tournaments on television. It's hard to imagine, but spring is almost here. We are so close to feeling that soft grass under our feet. But first, we need to get our lawn back. Thankfully, Sunday gets your lawn growing and helps to keep it healthy all season long. Sunday can help you grow a beautiful lawn without the guesswork or the nasty chemicals. Their custom plans include fertilizer and everything you need to easily care for your lawn, and with ingredients like seaweed, iron, and molasses, you can feel good with kids and pets being around. All you have to do is visit getsunday.com, put in your address, and their lawn analysis tool does the rest. They then use soil and climate data to create a personal nutrient plan delivered to your door when you need it. Just attach the ready-to-use pouch to a garden hose and spray. It takes less than 15 minutes. Best of all, this stuff really works, and Sunday is offering our listeners 20% off. Full season plans start at just $129, and you can get 20% off at checkout when you visit getsunday.com/birds20. That's 20% off your custom plan at getsunday.com/birds20. During this great reshuffle, a record number of employees are considering switching jobs. So now's your chance to attract them. LinkedIn Jobs is here to help you connect with the people you want to interview faster and for free. I've been in that position where you're trying to figure out what jobs are coming open, what jobs can I apply for? Well, you know what? LinkedIn Jobs makes that easy. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 770 million people. Then add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/BWF. That's linkedin.com/BWF to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, we move now to the Jatavis Brown region in the 2022 free agent Quacketology, comprised of linebackers and a few defensive tackles. The number 1 seed, Bobby Wagner, going up against the big boy, Deontay Foreman, who got through in the first 4.
Bobby Wagner's not coming to Philadelphia, so Deontay Foreman.
Foreman.
Okay. This is an interesting one because we have our first player who Sheil actually predicted to go to the Eagles in his piece today. The number 8 seed and the number 88 overall player in his 150, the 30-year-old Anthony Barr. And what I appreciated, Sheil, about that was that you knew that Birds with Friends listeners would already know the connection between Anthony Barr and Nick Rallis from their time together in Minnesota. It went unsaid. You threw it in there. And then I've got William Golston, the 9 seed, defensive tackle or interior defensive lineman rather, from the Bucks, number 93 on your list, 31 overall. I think William Golston's good, but I think we know where you're voting.
The readers who should be upset with me would be the ones who their teams are last in alphabetical order. Because when it was like 2:15 and I was getting to the Tennessee Titans and Washington Commanders, I was just going, who the hell is left on my spreadsheet?
Oh, interesting. You did it alphabetically.
Well, no, I had about 8 different methods, all of which were terrible and disorganized. Okay. That's just where I landed on at the end. William Golston is a solid player, interior pass rush, starting caliber player, but
very good pass rush numbers.
Yeah, I think Anthony Barr, I didn't love that one for the Eagles, but I just thought cheap linebacker, they take a flyer on these linebackers, it seems like every offseason. He's got the connection, as you mentioned, 30 years old. So, if it's like a 1-year deal, maybe that would make sense. So, yes, I'm going with Barr.
He seems like instead of trying to find the guy who's going to be your Anthony Barr at that position, just sign Anthony Barr, but he has to stay healthy.
Yeah, Jonathan Gannon gave a whole thing during training camp last year on how this isn't technically the Anthony Barr role because Barr played Will. They used him differently in stack situations, but, he could also play Sam. Anyways, that's a roundabout way of saying, like, Anthony Barr is a unique player who could give them a dimension that they haven't had. I understand that there's this, like, Vikings-Eagles pipeline, right? That Anthony Harris can just rent his place to Anthony Barr. Eric Wilson, if Eric Wilson is looking for a sublet situation, Anthony Barr could jump in. But I don't think this is just getting someone because of the background. I think Anthony Barr would be an upgrade to the defense. So give me Anthony Barr here.
If he can stay healthy, has had real trouble staying healthy the last 2
years.
Played
in 13 games over the last 2 seasons.
Running back at UCLA.
Yes.
Speaking of Don Bosco Prep.
Speaking of guys who have trouble staying healthy and guys with very large necks, Leighton Vander Esch, the 72nd overall player on Sheil's 150, 26 years old, going up against the unranked Justin Jones, the interior defensive lineman from the Los Angeles Chargers, who has a little bit of pass rush efficiency to his game. Also can't stay healthy, as Sheil is just deteriorating before our eyes.
I'm dozing off. I'm trying to give the viewers something to pay.
I don't think they're signing Leighton Vander Esch, although that is an intriguing one. If you recall, when he was coming out in the draft, there were a lot of Eagles fans who wanted them to take Vander Esch, and I think that's someone who they were actually scouting that year.
He was great as a rookie.
Well, I hope they were scouting him. I mean, that's their job.
Fairly extensively. Yeah. But I'm going Justin Jones here because I think as like a rotational defensive tackle, he can be an upgrade over Hassan Ridgeway.
Yeah, Justin Jones is a good player, hasn't been able to stay healthy. Leighton Vander Esch, it feels like the injury issues have affected his play. In other words, when he's still on the field, he's not the same guy he was as a rookie. He was a rotational player last year, so I'll go with Jones.
If I can take a second to just say, like, defensive tackle, it's not just an upgrade over Hassan Ridgeway they need. They've got a very nice top three, it seems like, but Fletcher Cox is declining, and this could be his last season. Javon Hargrave's entering the last year of his deal. They may rework his deal and extend him. This is a sneaky need long term.
Maybe in the draft.
Right. Okay, the 4 seed, Sheil's 44th overall player. We stick with the Los Angeles Chargers. Kaiser White, who is a former college safety, moved to linebacker. I think this is a profile that could definitely intrigue the Eagles, just 26 years old. He goes up against 25-year-old Tim Settle, the defensive lineman for Washington, who many have predicted is going to sign a monster deal.
So
unranked,
we called this
150.
So we called this the Jatavius Brown bracket. Kaiser White has some Jatavius Brown qualities to him in terms of, obviously, comes from the Chargers, that size and style of player. We saw they went in that direction before. They can go in that direction again. I'm going Kaiser White, and I think that's a player to keep your eye on here.
Yeah, sure. Kaiser White.
What worries me about there is a lot of there's a lot of unknown projection when you're getting these linebackers switching schemes, right? Kaiser White reminds me a little bit of Corey Littleton. 2 off seasons ago, everybody's talking about how great Corey Littleton is. Like, this guy's great. Everybody loves him, and he can't play when he goes to Oakland or Las Vegas. Worries me a little bit about Kaiser White, but I'll go with Kaiser White as well. Next up, Zach's boy, Devondre Campbell, going up against Taven Bryan, the defensive tackle, first-round relative bust for the Jaguars, who does have a little bit of pass rush juice, though, according to the numbers.
Well, if only the Eagles had listened to the Quacketology the past 2 years, because I was singing Devondre Campbell's praises.
Yes.
And he's a low price free agent who was first team All Pro. Is that right? So I would say Devondre Campbell, but unfortunately they're probably priced out at this point.
Well, this is who I was thinking of on the J-Ron Curse theme. Is it like you signed Devondre Campbell last year, as you said, you don't sign him this year.
You sign him every year, in my opinion. But.
Wow.
Could have been had for $2 million last offseason. The Packers got him for. Yes, I agree. This is not the time to be signing Devondre Campbell to a large deal. So I will go with Brian, who was not in my top 150.
The recently released Jordan Hicks makes his way onto the bracket at number 6.
Zach's ears perked up here.
He will be 30 years old. Very funny turn of the career for Jordan Hicks, who was just killed for not being able to stay healthy. And then over the last 3 years, no linebacker in the league played more snaps except for Bobby Wagner than Jordan Hicks. He goes up against Anthony Walker, who I think is the reigning champion of Quacketology. He is number 113 on Sheil's list.
If they sign Jordan Hicks, Bo, and you texted Zach and go, I want to write the Hicks return story, do you think, what would he do to you? I feel like that's just that's like coffee to me. That like Z-Berm would not be having that.
He would say very a very polite, but that it's not polite. Okay. Or like just a thumbs up or something like that. But
I'd probably be like, I'm actually with Jordan now. He says,
oh, wow. Outstanding response.
I like that.
Z-Berm probably has like a document on his computer, like Jordan Hicks Nuggets or something.
I have a book here.
That's right.
Has
you just dig them
big part in here on Jordan Hicks. Yes.
He's got a syllabus. He's got a syllabus for Jordan Hicks one-on-one.
I will go with Hicks wouldn't count against the comp pick formula, right? I would imagine they like all of Hicks's intangibles. I don't think he's going to break the bank. I mean, he did play well in Arizona. They kept drafting linebackers, and I think he was keeping them off the field. So I will go with Hicks.
I'll go Hicks too. I mean, I'm a little doubtful that they go in that direction now, but I think some of that, Chip Kelly guy, shine on or stink on him rather has faded away now that he's been in Arizona. So I don't think he's any more looked at in the organization as Chip's pick.
Do you guys think I can see you right now?
No.
This is like a game my kid plays.
Yeah, me too. Leo was just playing this with me. That's what it's much more fun.
For the audio listeners, Sheila's just like, he has his hat hanging low over his head.
We got 18 minutes.
The 7-10, Kyle Van Noy against Harrison Phillips. Kyle Van Noy from the Patriots, recently released, of course, famous for being V. Anoy. And Harrison Phillips, a young defensive tackle from the Bills.
Famous too.
The listeners of the post Super Bowl or the Super Bowl week.
Oh, I see. I was a listener, and I don't recall anything about that. V. Anoy. All right. I guess Villanueva could be like,
he's your Sam.
He could be the next Gennard Avery. Harrison Phillips, run stuffing.
I think he gets paid too much.
You think? What's Harrison Phillips going to get paid? What are you projecting? $20 million for Harrison freaking Phillips?
No, 2 years, $8 million.
Oh, okay. That's
Were you joking, by the way, about Tim Settle, about him getting a lot of money, or is that like an actual?
I think that was a back and forth on the Twitter sphere at some point.
Oh, okay. I was curious. I was like, I haven't read that. Is that something I got to do more work on?
I'll go with Villanueva.
I'll go Van Noy here. But this is a second round loser. So.
That was a good one. I'm sorry I didn't give you credit 5 years ago. I probably just spoke right past it.
We were still in the honeymoon phase back then. 2:15, Foyesade Oluwakan, who I feel like is maybe Zach's boy to a certain extent. 27 years old, of course, a Yale product, which I know Zach likes, against Quan Alexander, the 15 seed, who is still okay when healthy, but has not played more than 12 games like any of the last 4 years.
They'll be priced out of the Oluwakan market, in my opinion. But if they want to make a major investment in linebacker, this is the direction I would look. I think he's a really good player. He's an emerging player, and he could be a foundation piece on your defense. So I'll go with Quan
Alexander.
No, I'll go Oluwakan here. Yes.
Oh, I will go with Quan Alexander. I mean, Oluwakan, like you said, that's going to be, I think, at least a $10 million per year linebacker. I mean, that would really be a change of philosophy for them.
Deontay Foreman, Anthony Barr.
Oh, are we still going?
Barr.
Oh, sorry, someone.
Barr. The irony here, by the way, is that I think
Barr.
the only thing people want to listen to is the safeties, and we're going to crunch the safeties into like 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Justin Jones, Kazir White.
White.
Taven Bryan, Jordan Hicks.
Hicks.
Kyle Van Noy, Quan Alexander.
Van Noy.
I'll agree with Van Noy.
Okay.
Anthony Barr, Kaiser White.
Barr.
Kaiser Shizzy.
You're going
Kaiser White. Yeah.
Oh, you're knocking me out. Okay.
Yeah, Barr's a good one though, but okay.
I'm knocking you out.
I will
Jordan
not let
Hicks,
you forget about it.
Jordan Hicks, Kyle Van Noy.
Hicks.
I don't think why you guys think they're bringing back Jordan Hicks?
Well, okay, go ahead.
White.
Tell us, give us
Kaiser
the Kyle
White,
Van
Jordan
Noy
Hicks.
why you feel so strongly about it.
I don't just
hour 41 minutes.
Kaiser White, Jordan
Hicks.
Hicks.
I can even care.
Kaiser White.
Kaiser White.
I'm not letting you talk me out of it.
Kaiser White makes his way to the Final Four. All right, the Malcolm Jenkins region. The number 1 seed, Marcus Williams from the Saints, 5 overall on Shield's board, 26 years old, going to get paid a lot of money. He goes up against Jacoby Brissett.
He's going to get paid.
Williams is $16 to $17 million a year player.
I'm going Marcus Williams here.
Okay, you think they'll spend it?
I agree. I think if there's anywhere they're going to make a splash, it's here.
Yes, I agree.
Jordan Whitehead against Terrell Edmonds. This is the Christian Kirk, Zach Pascal matchup of the safety region here. I think Jordan Whitehead might be the guy who they view as like the Malcolm Jenkins here. He's a young guy who has started for a Super Bowl defense. He's not the guy that everybody's talking about in a very talented safety market. he makes a lot of sense to me, and is a little bit more of a box safety, right? But does play. I noticed in your write-up, Sheil, he played all over the place in Tampa as well. Whereas Terrell
I would go
Edmunds
with Whitehead. Terrell
more
Edmunds
of
is a
downhill
limited
guy.
player who has not lived up to his draft slot. So, I mean, he could have to settle for a lower end deal, in which case maybe that would make him more likely. But if you're talking about who they would target, I would say Whitehead. So I would go, I think Whitehead and another guy we'll talk about who we've talked about are the two that are most likely.
I love Bo's description. Whitehead, absolutely. Player to watch here.
Dante Jackson, the 37th overall player on Sheil's list, very fast second-round pick of the Panthers, came to Philadelphia for a pre-draft visit in that process, up against Lions safety Tracy Walker, who is 108 on Sheil's list.
It's a good one. Let's go switch it up and go Dante Jackson.
I'm trusting Sheil here. I don't know if they're going to pay up that much for a corner, but it is a premium position, and he is an ascending player. So give me Dante Jackson.
I think they would have to view Dante Jackson not as the Steven Nelson, but as future Darius Slay, as the guy who's going to replace Darius Slay if they're going to do that. Otherwise, I feel like they are in a position where they can just wait out the cornerback market, even potentially to after the draft, see if they add somebody, and then there will be a Steven Nelson available if they need somebody. Charvarius Ward, speaking of which, the Chiefs corner against Ronnie Harrison, the Browns safety, who was 129 on Sheil's list, but is also more of a box guy.
Charvarius Ward.
Sure.
Okay. Quandre Diggs, the 3 seed, 23rd overall on Sheil's list, coming off a broken ankle, good friends with Darius Slay, up against Desmond King, who was the Charger. He was on the Texans last year. Titans.
Oh yeah, Texans. He was on the Titans before that. I actually really like Desmond King. He's like an Avonte Maddox type player, but I would think Quandre Diggs here because of the type of role he could play in this defense.
It's a tough one. Diggs is a very, very good safety, but suffered a season-ending injury in Week 18 last year, I believe. But leader, free safety option. I think he would certainly be a nice addition. Desmond King, I could see too. He played outside last year after having played in the slot. Probably isn't going to cost you a lot. Bo, do you have a strong opinion here where I have to make a decision or no?
Who did Zach go for?
Zach went King.
No. I went Diggs.
Oh, you went Diggs. Sorry.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I said I like King, but I would go
Diggs he's 29. It's not like you're solving this position long term. I go Desmond King.
Oh, so I do have to.
Yeah, Sheil breaks the tie.
Ooh, I will go with King.
Okay. This is another interesting matchup in the first round. Guys who both could potentially make it to the end. Justin Reed, who we have talked about as a potential obvious target for the Eagles, 67th overall on Sheil's list. Sheil projected him to go to the Eagles in his exercise today, 25 years old, up against Levi Wallace, the Bills corner, who to me looks like if they're going to sign a corner, he is like exactly what they would be looking for.
Levi Wallace is Steven Nelson.
Right. But younger.
Okay. I would go with Justin Reed.
As would I. He'd be a player that I would target if I were Howie Roseman. I loved him coming out of Stanford. I think that he's an ascending player still. He can play deep for you. He's got speed. Was a legitimate 4-4 guy coming out. I really like Justin Reed. Give me.
Yeah, he was the other one I was talking about with Whitehead. I think those are the two I sort of look at and say maybe among the most likely options for the Eagles.
Jets safety Marcus May, good player, but coming off a Achilles injury. He's number 68 on Sheil's list. He's 29 years old. He goes up against Jaron Kearse, who I've been talking about as, I said last offseason, sign this guy. Well, then he went and played well with the Cowboys, and now he's going to be expensive.
Nice tight end stopper, Jaron Kearse. But like you said, this isn't the year you probably want to sign a Jaron Kearse. So I will go with Marcus May. He might have to settle for a 1-year deal. Maybe you take a shot at one of the big safeties, don't land them, need somebody, and you say, all right, let's just sign Marcus May for
or maybe
1
you
year,
double dip.
$4 or $5 million. I don't know.
Maybe you double dip with a Marcus May and another safety.
I would go Marcus May here.
Okay, yeah. Marcus May moves on. And then finally, Carlton Davis, who is likely to get a very big deal. the 12th overall player on Sheil's list from the Bucks. He goes up against former Giants safety Jabril Peppers, who is coming off a season-ending injury, but is an interesting potential reclamation project.
By the way, if I was a GM, I would sign Jabril Peppers on day one to be a starting linebacker for my team.
Okay.
I think he can be a really good linebacker.
Day one.
Can I just say? Let's just as you
not
call
in my top 150.
As you call me out on not breaking the ties in your favor, I have to call you out on the two players on this entire 64 team bracket who you are pounding the table for. Former Giants. Respect the ring.
Who's the other one?
Lorenzo Carter. Like all about these guys.
It was like 7 hours ago, Bo. No one remember. I didn't
Jabril
remember
Peppers. If you watched him at Michigan, you would say like,
was that 10 years ago?
Yeah, but these guys have been in the league.
Positionless player. That's what I would say.
Oh my
Don't
God.
love the
Nothing I
positionless
hate
player.
more than positionless players. They
positionless
literally
player.
have no
On the football
position,
field, you need a
and
guy to
no
play a
coach
position.
knows
player.
what to do with them. And so then they either end up on the bench or end up in compromising situations on the field. I would have a rule. Here's what I would do if I were a GM. Any scout, you bring me somebody who you say is a positionless player, off the board, cross him off. I don't want him.
I would say,
I want
have
players
you seen,
with positions.
I would say, have you seen Shaq Thompson play? I would say Jabril Peppers.
1 out
would
of
be Shaq
10.
Thompson.
Yeah, we're going probability, not possibility.
Jabril
I was not
Peppers.
expecting this Jabril Peppers take. I mean,
Oh,
I
man.
feel like I have to take. Carlton Davis is going to make, 14, 15, 16 million dollars a year. I don't think they're going to be shopping in that market. So I guess I'll go Jabril Peppers. Should we just put him all the way in there to the championship?
Day one.
No,
Day one, I signed him, and he's not even playing safety. He's moving.
I don't think the Eagles are going to do. I don't think. The Eagles
if
are gonna do
anybody signs him
But-
day one,
I would. He'd be my priority. Okay.
I'm
Just your priority.
Oh my God, what is happening? No, is he your neighbor or something? Is he your kid's
He is.
godfather?
He has,
What
a full,
the
he,
hell
has
is
a, he
going
has a full sentence first name, which is good.
I mean, can't you just see it? I'll cross your timeline. J.C. Jackson
would be
to
your
the Raiders
priority?
for $19 million. To Ron Armstead to the Dolphins for $21 million. Jabril Peppers too.
To Zach Berman for his for the mortgage on his house.
I'm just telling you. I think he can be a really good linebacker.
Listen,
like linebacker.
maybe this is
hybrid
Devondre
linebacker
Campbell.
safety.
Who are we to doubt, Zach?
The Eagles aren't
That's
going to
true.
sign him to play linebacker, but I'm saying I would. So
Okay.
that's my point.
All right, Marcus Williams, Jordan Whitehead.
Jordan
Whitehead.
Dante Jackson, Charvarius Ward.
Dante Jackson for me.
I
Dante
agree.
Jackson.
Desmond King, Justin Reed. Justin Reed.
Justin Reed.
Marcus May, Jabril Peppers.
Marcus May.
I'm going Jabril Peppers. It'd be more fun.
I mean, listen, if I feel like I have to go Jabril Peppers just because if he
Sorry,
does,
Ken.
then
Poor
we can
Ken's trying
say
to put
that
these names
Zach
in.
has a lot of sway in the he's whispering
Hey,
in Howie's
listen.
ear.
Yeah.
So let's go Jabril Peppers. Jordan Whitehead, Dante Jackson.
Whitehead.
Justin Reed, Jabril Peppers.
Justin Reed.
Justin Reed.
Sorry, Peppers.
Yeah,
Great
too
run
bad.
though.
Good run. I mean, a Cinderella run. Okay, this is
a tough one.
this could be the national championship
Ooh,
game
This is
here.
a big one.
Jordan Whitehead against Justin Reed. They are separated by 2 spots on Sheil's top 75. They are both 25 years old. Different skill sets. Reed is a little bit more athletic, more of a pure free safety. Whitehead comes from a winning organization.
I like your thinking there. And also, if we are the podcast that had Whitehead ahead of Reed and it is Whitehead, we're getting all kinds of pub. This is like a little marketing lesson for you younger content creators out there. If you go with Reed, it's
A little more
like,
popular.
give me a break. Everyone was saying Reed. You're not doing anything there. So for the brand, I'm going to go Whitehead.
Yeah, you know what? I think they should go Reed, but I think Whitehead's an underrated player, and also the Eagles front office has a lot of Pittsburgh connections. So he's a guy who Andy Weidel and Tom Donahoe watched in high school when he was in. I believe he's from Monica.
I mean, I don't know that. Do you know that they watched him in high school? Don't these
I'm-
guys have jobs to do?
If they watched Miles Sanders in high school, I'm sure they watched Jordan Whitehead in high school.
Oh,
must have been, they've got the Avonte Maddox.
Did you see what
thing
that was?
going on here.
That was a little seed of a story there in Z-Berm's idea, I think. High school, Miles Sanders, Jordan Whitehead, connection. He drives to Pittsburgh. There was some big game no one knows about, but they exchanged jerseys at the end. Maybe Zach looks like he already knows about all. That looks like he's already done all the reporting.
Now Jordan Whitehead and Avonte Maddox were college teammates. So
there you go.
And he's the only one on this 64 whose last name is a type of pimple.
That's true.
There you go. That's the type
I
of
haven't double checked it.
Yes.
Although actually AJ Zitty is a nice under the radar nose tackle who's not getting a lot of money.
Who would you get? Who would you most describe as Jordan
Wasn't in
Whitehead?
my 150.
Is there a white guy named Jordan who would be Jordan Whitehead?
I don't know. Please, we have 7. It's 153. Let's go.
Yeah, we have 3 minutes left.
I got to go potty.
Okay, the final four. The champion of the Alshon Jeffrey region, Zach Pascal, up against the champion of the Chris Long region, the 3 seed Hassan Reddick, a 3-13 matchup, which you don't get in the final four very often. Who moves to the championship game?
Pascal.
God, Pascal's so boy. I mean, this would be the worst rated. The networks do not want Pascal in this championship.
They're playing Wisconsin bully ball, except there's no shot clock.
They're texting Richard Deitch and Brian Curtis.
The final scores are 7-6.
Andrew Marchand's leading with this. The networks are nervous about Pascal getting to the final here. Bo, who are you going with? Are you going Pascal? Or are you going to make me decide?
I'm going Pascal. I don't think they're going to.
All right,
think they're going to pay for Reddick.
All right, Pascal.
A little Zach Pascal nugget. He has the dog mentality. He literally brought the dog mentality to Nick Sirianni. He's the one who connected Sirianni with the T-shirt manufacturer.
All right,
you can read that story on The Athletic.
Oh man,
yeah. I want to be clear that
fans are going to be so annoyed with this.
I want to be clear that Zach Pascal is not worth signing. He's bringing almost nothing to the table.
He's fine. But he's a fine low cost. If he's low cost, that you draft over.
All right. The champion of the Jatavis Brown region, Kaiser White, the pass defending linebacker, goes up against the champion of the Malcolm Jenkins region, Jordan Whitehead. Somebody in the chat, give me a white Jordan, please.
Whitehead. Wasn't a new kid on the block? Wasn't one of them named Jordan?
Oh yeah, Jordan.
Yeah.
And then he had like one single when he came back in the 90s, right? Or the early 2000s,
right? Yeah,
early 2000s.
Well, Jordy Nelson,
Jordan McKnight, Jordan McKnight,
Jordy Nelson.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's go. All
right, the championship game: Zach Pascal against Jordan Whitehead. The winner of Quacketology to be crowned who is the most likely free agent to sign with the Eagles?
Jordan Whitehead. They're going to sign a safety. Okay, they're going to sign a starting safety.
Let's do it. We are the official pod. Jordan Whitehead is the official. I don't know. What are we even calling him?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm in.
You're in?
You know what?
Unanimous.
I was doing the shopping guide last night, and it crystallized for me. This is the guy. This is the guy they're going to sign.
Okay.
I'm glad. Jordan Whitehead, congratulations to his family and to his lovers.
All right. I'm signing off. Bye.
All right. Thanks to everybody for listening.
Thank you, Kent, by the way. My gosh.
Kent.
And sorry.
Kent usually gets to just zone out while we drone on.
Yeah.
But this time he had to actually be paying attention. So this has got to be the worst experience.
He's used to movies going too long anyways. So
that's true.
All right.
That'll do it for this episode of Birds with Friends. Long as expected. For Zach and Sheil and Kent and Marissa and Michael and Elijah, I'm Bo. Thanks for listening. We will be with you throughout free agency next week. I'm sure we will have several pods of reaction, and Sheil will be a very busy man. So hope that he gets some sleep. For everybody, thanks for listening. And as always, we love you.